good evening, good evening, good evening. Let me do that. Hey, how y'all doing? We'll listen to that tail out there. Welcome to Monday night. Welcome to Monday Music. Paul, good to see you. Quasor, Mixmaster, Eric, whoever else is lurking off in the corners and in the shadows this evening. There's a really long decay on that thing. So, not a whole lot to talk about tonight, but hope everyone's having a good one. We're going to be mostly in the box tonight, just because I didn't feel like setting anything else up. I mean, not like there's a lot to set up, but I just didn't feel like doing anything with it. So anyway, mostly in the box tonight. Everything you heard was in the box. And so let's go ahead real quick. We'll take a look at what's in the jam, and then we'll get into. Okay, we can talk about that. Absolutely. When we get to that's like down the strip. So let's go ahead, jump into what's in the jam, and Ridvik, welcome. Good evening. And I'm just getting ready to go through what was in the jam, and. So let's go ahead and hop to it. Let me jump over to the appropriate track. And boom. So first track is this thing. Let's see. Real slow, just a real nice, real slow pad in Zyklop. And that's followed up with Love, also by Dawson. Was at least close then? I got it in the right part of the world. So I'm getting better. So anyway, that was so the way this is running is. I was running a sequence with this during the jam, and I'm controlling that using what sequences run are controlled with this Launchpad Mini. Excuse me, had to hack and wheeze there. So you're seeing something a little different on this. We'll talk about that later. So anyway, basically the these colored ones up here launch the individual clips in, and you can't really tell what color they are because they're overexposed. But the colors here match up with the colors in the track headers, and now the colors on the Kontrol S, so I know which one's which. So anyway, the setup, just basically I trigger the sequences in Ableton with the Launchpad Mini for the things that are sequenced. And so for Zyklop, I had two sequences, nothing really fancy in either one of them, just some pad chord kind of things going on in a kind of an offset loop, and so that was that track. Hopefully that answered the question as to what that setup was. So anyway, Mixmaster. So that was, like I said, it was Zyklop running the FM keys patch slightly modified, and I'll show you why and how that worked and why it got modified, because I was fooling around earlier. So we'll get to that, and then next up in the jam was this Conflux instrument in Contact, which is running inside a complete control, just so I have all of the Rofo chicken. So this thing Again, another pad. There was a lot of layers and pads tonight. And this was running a sequence, not very dense, but it would come in and just throw some things at us here and there. And let's see, was there anything else in that? Yes, also in there, in that chain, we had just some light limiting. And I had some stuff set up earlier that I had turned off. I probably should have turned at least one of them back on. And we can look at those later, and I'll get back to that too. Let's see. So that was that pad. Then we had an instance of pigments running my bell shimmer patch all by itself. This one is almost a split within pigments, even though there's no key zones or anything set up. It's just different things react differently up and down the keyboard. So we can lay in this pad kind of thing down here, and then play little melody noodles over it. So that was that. Next up in the jam, is this thing, which is the drone, the underlying big drone, and this was just done in Drift, which is one of the instruments that comes. Hey Joe, good to see you. One of the instruments that comes with Ableton Live. Some level or another. It's at least actually Drift might be the one that comes with everything. I've got some aftertouch, controlling filter, and that's running through Valhalla Supermassive, obviously, and also the Ableton Live Echo effect. One of my favorite effects, actually, within Ableton Live. Also in the jam was this little another Drift instrument patch, just this little arpeggiated thing, which I actually have to play. Because of the way I've got it set up, it's locked up. So we'll have to do that. It will do its thing. So that was that. Nothing fancy really. The live leads or the lead lines were carried through with, thanks Joe. And again, that's just right out of Drift. Set up a couple of appropriate envelopes, and away it goes. And I've got the LFO driving the frequency of both filters in this case. And then leads handled by the Multi-Poly. I was using the software version tonight. Which is nice too, because it's another one of those patches. A lot of my patches, performances, presets, whatever you want to call them, are designed so you can play a pad or pedal tones in the left hand while you're doing lead lines in the right. And this, of course, is responding to poly aftertouch, so I can open this filter with the lead. So that was all there is to that. And this patch is one I did some time ago. This is one of my own. Multi-poly is so much fun to program or patch or do sound design in software. It's okay in hardware. I think it's if you've got time. If you're in a rush, it's not going to happen. But if you've got time to work with it, it does nicely in hardware. And so finally, the percussion was I use a lot in my percussion. I use Session Performer from Contact, which is a Contact instrument. And basically, I set up, a 4-part or a 5-part, depending on what I'm looking at. Your patches are intense, so yeah, you definitely need some time here and there. So anyway, I just I fool around till I find combinations of percussion instruments that work well together for me. So tonight we had congas, cajon, go-go, and cabasa. And so just a well, where track is that? I'm on this one, and I only did one pattern. So in Session Percussionist, when you're getting into when you're working, I don't do it a lot. This started as basically just one of their patterns, and I changed the instruments. So I cheated. But the thing with Latin percussion is that in general, there are in Latin percussion there are very specific patterns for different instruments, and in a different given musical style. Excuse me. In different musical styles, or in a given musical style, there are very signature percussion patterns. So if you do if you keep things in the right groove, sorry. Yeah, I think I muted the percussion track instead of the thing. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to hack in your ears. Try again on 3, 2, 1. Better. So anyway, if you keep the style consistent, it's kind of hard to go wrong. And then in Session Percussionist, I have the ability in the editor. And again, I started with a basic pattern, but in the editor, I can go in and I can change. I can kind of change and kind of humanize it a little bit. I've got a little bit of swing on this, a chunk of humanization. If you look here, you can see that's so I got a 16th note swing, and the humanization cranked up a little bit, just to kind of give it a nice groove. And then I will go in too, and I will, you can say your articulations. You can get in and say which part of the hand is banging. In this case, on the conga, and can change your velocity, and here's the map of the timings, and I don't think we've got any flame. We don't have any real flams in this one, but I could crank up flams on particular beats. And then so that was all the conga stuff. If we come over here, we got all the cajon stuff open, and you can see it, muted palm, open palm, and you know, I could add a slap here and there. So anyway, it's a really um, um, it really lets you get in deep. And then so each of these, if you're in this, maybe I should do an episode where I go over how this works at some point. But let's see, what's the best way to show this? Let me do that. So if you notice on the map here of the keys, this is showing the showing how everything is broken down. So here's your congas, here's your cajon, here's your go-go bells, and here's your cabasa. So if I go ahead, if you look down here, you can barely see. You can't really see it because I turned the lights down on the keyboard. Let me pull that up. Maybe you can see it a little bit. So it's hard to see, but the color codes here on the keyboard align with what was in the keyboard map here. So if I hit this C1 on the keyboard, we're going to get one of those patterns. If I hit C sharp, it's a different pattern. And so in the sequences for these, I'm not sure. Or the other thing that you can do is it's not on the. I have to go down an octave on the keyboard, but you've got a whole octave of grouped grouped sequences. So if I hit this C0, got the whole the whole band, so to speak. And you can see when I hit a key, if you look at the key map here, and I'm going to turn that down just a little bit because that is pretty hot. You can see if I hit this C, in this case, it hits all the Cs for all the groups. And then up in these areas in between, in many cases, you have individual hits. No, not in this case. Here you up here. So you can play them yourself as well. And so I've got that running into my friend Echo, and then into a reverb called ROM, which is from Native Instruments. So that's how the percussion stuff works. And I just I just kind of chose instruments for this that I knew would sound good together. Again, it's not exactly the preset that. Not exactly the preset that came out of the box. I made some changes here and there because I don't want to exactly copy everybody. Now looking at the discussion here about the multi-poly editing, interestingly. Let's see, looking at let me catch up chat here. For all of the RPIs, I typically like to use the editor or the VST and then move it over. That's just I spent so much time working in the box that in some cases hardware is almost foreign. I find the multi-poly, with a couple of exceptions, to be very fluid as far as sound design is concerned in hardware. Where I get kind of turned around is there being 4 layers, and then some things within, a couple things within the layers are then layered. Like you've got what is it? The envelopes. I mean, there's 4 envelopes per layer, and so you know, you got what envelope am I working on, and what filter am I controlling? Because there's two filters, and you know, so sometimes that gets a little out of hand, keeping track in my head where things are. Um, and so it's just in the case of the multi-pally, there's just a lot. Because if I move over to the if I move over to excuse me, to the Pro 800, I mean there's no tedium there at all, because everything's right in front of you. Everything's right in front of your face, and I find that really refreshing. Um, and I agree with Vic, the man, the lists and lists and lists of waves samples on the wave state. Scrolling through that in hardware would make me out of my mind. It's enough digging through, you know, in the VST or in the editor. It's just, you know, it's crazy talk. You know, there's just a lot should be. Well, you know, and I'll tell you what, Joe, that you know fits in a lot of different ways right now. Um, you know, just it's everything is just a lot. So hey, David, welcome. Good to see you. Um, so anyway, that was the what's in the jam, and as the title kind of teases, there have been some upgrades in control, and I think they're very exciting. Some stuff that I have been waiting for, and I'm happy that they finally arrived. Basically, Native Instruments have gone in and made some more serious updates to the Kontrol S MkIII, the Kontrol S MkIII controllers. And let's see, let's do it this way. And we'll just do that. You know, just like before, we still have for NKS compatible instruments running within complete control. We still have the you know the nice sexy screens, but they've added a few things there as well. But I'm going to jump back to, let's see. I'm going to jump to the exciting stuff real quick. So if we go here to drift, which is a you know, it's a native instrument, or it's a Ableton Live instrument. This stuff all maps now, so I have all of the controls for drift now on the keyboard, and I didn't have to do the work. So basically, Native Instruments have updated the software for the keyboard so that it can now read third-party plugins, depending, of course, on how that plugin presents itself to the DAW. So obviously, almost any of the Ableton Live instruments now work automatically, and so you know I've got all of the stuff, seven pages of stuff for drift. And you know, I can control oscillator wave types. You can, you know, oscillator 1's wave is a sawtooth. You know, and who knows what that's going to sound like. Oh, that's the drone. So I can, you know, I can go in and I can change the filter frequency. Take out the resonance. You know. So this is now a live instrument, and this is something that had been missing, and so this makes, you know, this makes makes for a hybrid setup that is just fantastic, because I don't have it all mapped yet. This only came out late last week, and there were some bugs in the initial deployment, of course. So I've only just gotten it partially working. And as part of the deal, I ended up losing some of the presets that I had done myself, which is fine because I'm not going to need them anymore. They're going to be done differently. So anyway, I've got the drift instrument. If I come up here, now I have the controls for the Echo plugin. So I can change my my divisions as far as how it syncs to the DAW. And then there's filters within, and it tells me what my filter settings are. If I tap on the top of the key or top of the knob, it tells me just what everything is. It's so I can actually see what a setting is before I start messing with it. And then it also works with things like Valhalla, because Valhalla presents everything very neatly to the DAW. It is so Paul. The trick is that this only works with the Mark III controllers. There's not enough brain power in the Mark I and Mark II controllers for this to work. And in fact, in the new versions of the newest versions, or the new versions of the Complete Control world, the Mark I controller isn't even recognized. It's just not there. Machine 2, it might work. I'm not sure. Certainly worth giving it a try. And not everything works on a Mark II Control S keyboard, but I know it all works on the Mark III. That's what it's all written for. The Mark IIIs have all new processors, but I can move back and forth through the tracks, and I can move. So on this next track, which is the sequenced plucks, I've got a pitch instrument or a pitch MIDI pitch control in there because if I wanted to move it up an octave, if I do this, oops, wrong one, dummy, that one. So I can take this and I should be able to be adjusting the pitch, assuming that's turned on. Anyway, it does not sound like it's transposing. What did I do? Let's see. Maybe I've got that disabled in some. Oh, you know what? I bet you yes, it's turned off. Let's see if I can turn it on. Let's see. Let's look at the screen here. It is on. It's now down. I wonder why it's not driving that. Now, a bug. Yay. I will have to pass that on to the good folks at Native Instruments. Wonder why I didn't grab it. Anyway, if I move into drift, again, I've got control over all the... It's not talking on this track. Oh, you know what? I bet you it's not talking because of the way it's set up to sequence. That's probably it. Or I've got something else set up. Yeah. So now I should have control of these things, I hope. Let's see. Nope, still don't have control for some reason. Huh. All right, something wonky in the way this track is set up, apparently. That happens. So anyway, moving over to multi-poly, this is still this one's still a Complete Control custom instrument that I bought so that I can control the multi-poly from the keyboard. So that still works the same way, but I've also got a Valhalla Supermassive on this track, so I can add that. And then the Session Percussionist, and then we get into on the mic channel. I've got EQ and gate and a utility on there, so that I can run some gain. Some other things they added. Okay, Joe, good to see you. We'll talk to you later on. Thanks for stopping by, Joe. Appreciate it. Hey, Kurt, good to see you. So another thing that they have done is they've now got it set up so that, and this is really kind of nice and handy. Do I have a picture of that? No, I don't. Depends on the machine, Mixmaster. If it's Machina Plus, then you can. Then everything runs right on the machine. Otherwise, it's the Machina regular is just a controller. So let's see here. What do I want? I want that. I think would be close enough. So the thing now is, right now, the active channel, and you can see it running here. The mic channel is in a reddish color on the screen. The camera's colors are off a little bit. The colors on the meters on the screen on the Kontrol S now match the colors of the channel strips for the device. For instance, we're looking at the drift ARP instrument, and so if I were to actually, I'm going to go over to the drone instrument. So that channel, the highlighted channel on the screen, is in yellow. If I play this, it now comes up in yellow on the in the track mixer. And then another thing that I've been bugging them about, KnobCon, yes, I will be there. Yes, I saw that. That's going to be that's good. The banquet is going to be very interesting. So anyway, one other thing that they've added to here, we can talk about KnobCon in a minute. The other thing they've added here is, finally, if I hit shift over here and push up on the joystick, I can now control pan. So I've been waiting for pan, and which is fantastic. The one thing that they still didn't give me, or anybody else for that matter, that really needs to be on here, is I don't have control yet of the channel sends, the effect sends. But I they're still working on stuff. I can see that being a little tricky as to how you would do sends, the way this control is laid out, because we've only got one stack of knobs, and how do you without having to do a whole lot of pushing on this, how do you get your sends in a way that makes sense? To me, I would be happy, if I go shift and then up again, if it took the sends and laid them out across here. So when I'm in send mode, may even change the display, although I don't necessarily think it has to, but just give me the sends along here. So anyway, I'm going to guess that they're scratching their heads over that, and going to come up with a way to make that work. Because that's really about the only thing. I won't say it's the only thing missing, but that to me is a big thing that's missing. I don't know if they made any real changes in Play Assist, except that the things actually work the way I expect now. Play Assist gives me an arpeggiator and scale control and chords and all that kind of stuff, which I very rarely use because it didn't always respond the way I expected it to before. And I just fooled with it a little bit this evening before coming in to do tonight's show. And it did pretty much work the way I expected it to. So that was nice. Let's see. So anyway, so that's what's in the jam. That's what's new, that actually is new in the studio. I think I mentioned last week, I've got ModWave hardware coming. So that'll give me all the Raspberry Pi Korgs that I'm super interested in both software and hardware. Um, I am still so a friend of mine out in Chicago is selling a Mark One or a version 1 mod wave, and it's already going to be installed in the Tall Dog case, like I have the other ones that fit in those cases. So that will end up being working its way into a rack kind of situation. So there'll be Gully's Ghost. Welcome. Good to see you. Thank you for your first visit. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy it. So let's see. It's going to be kind of dark, but we're going to go ahead and take camera 2. And so right now I've got the. Let me see if I can lighten it up. That sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Nah, it's not going to work tonight. But so right now I've got the the wave state in a Tall Dog case. I've got the Op6 in a case, and so the mod wave is coming already cased. So that is going to kind of give me. I don't think it's going to work physically well in this stack, although I want the 3 stacked. So that's going to necessitate a little bit of rearrangement here in the studio, and I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be yet. One of the things, and I'm going to move the camera. What I'm thinking is I'm going to take these guys from here and put them here in the corner where the monitor is. And then I'll take the monitor and move it over, and camera and set up all over here. And that way the synth nest, so to speak, will be all in one spot. And then mix and control will be here. And then the playground of analog and performance stuff will be over here, or things that I'm working on, that kind of thing will be over behind me, in this area, because I've got some thoughts about where I'm going with that too, or I'm still trying to figure exactly what I want to do with that. Yeah, having not all of them are that cool. Some of them, I have, but when moving from preset to preset in the camera shots, I don't necessarily get full control over where the route that it takes. Reason being, I'm using the presets within the cameras as opposed to a camera control system that does all the full mapping and control, frankly, because I don't have the money for one of those. So we make some compromises, but I do like to have the ability to move the camera, and now generally I can do it without taking a remote control and looking up like an idiot, like I was doing. So let's see. And the better controller that I do have has its own own sets of problems. So basically, I use it for setting locations and then locking them into the cameras, and then I turn it off because it tends to send cameras off on from the production van. No, I'm not. She's not gonna. I don't think she's going to be my director. I mean, it is a multicam shoot. I'm probably going to bring a third camera back in, just because sometimes one thing about these cameras, is that this is as wide as this camera goes, and so I need something in an overall shot that's a little wider, probably from back there somewhere down into this area, is what I'm thinking. And she basically said, Paul, don't even ask. So there's, so that's the way that goes. Maybe someday when I get thousands of subscribers and start up a Patreon and all that kind of thing and have money rolling in, then I can hire a production staff. But it's not something that it's not something that I'm pushing. Oh, geez. That would, that could get out of control, but it's not undoable. I could just see, the problem that I see is, all 9 of you who are on, or is it 12, 9 or 10 or 12 or however many people who are on at the moment, you all want to see something different. So I've only got one overhead camera, so you'd be fighting over, someone wants to look at the look at the multi-poly, someone else wants to see the Pro 800, so there would have to be some logic and controls and because the cameras can go places I don't necessarily want them to go as well. It's like I can get shots of like parts of the studio are kind of torn apart right now. My fat self is sitting in front of a whole bunch of it. I got another chair here, so there's a corner. The corner directly behind me is a mess. So I could do that. Oh, I know what else. I could do it at other things, so that because I do have the ability to. I could have the ability to do things based on subscriber level. Members of a certain subscriber level get access to these controls, and other subscriber levels get no control, or whatever. I don't know. It's I think we were talking about this somewhere. I was talking, might have been at your house this past weekend. I was talking with somebody about the things. One of the things that was supposed to happen with the digital TV transition, and especially into HD and everything, was we at home were supposed to be able to choose camera angles. So I don't I don't it never happened. We can't choose our own camera angles for shows on our TVs now, at this point. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So and as far as YouTube, as far as another platform, well, and Paul, that was kind of the smell-o-vision. Paul, that was kind of the idea behind the concert vision thing, and being able to select cameras. That was part of the dream, So anyway, so the thought of Twitch and Kick and YouTube and all these things. I don't know as much as I don't like or dislike some of the things that YouTube is looking at doing or are doing. I don't know that I'm that interested in changing to another platform. Um, I could be persuaded otherwise, maybe. But one of the things that I really I do like about YouTube, number one is the amount of content that is, and people that are on it producing like content that can be, you know, linked to and discussed and, um, hey, Tony's got power. Good to see you. Um, you know, I the one of the problems I have with Twitch is, um, well, yeah, people are here, Tony, and it's like, I mean, there's a lot of people on Twitch too, but I don't understand the way demographics work on Twitch. The other thing about Twitch is, the um, there's the retention, data retention is not there. Um, as far as multi-streaming, there are um, there are some restrictions, some fairly heavy restrictions that Twitch places on that. Um, and I'm not willing to deal with. I'm not willing to put up with that restriction. Um, and the interesting thing that one of the restrictions they say is that if I have, the chat on screen, like we have the chat on screen, they disallow mixing the chat amongst providers. And they say that is to, they say that is to provide a consistent experience for their users, consistent quality experience for their users. Well, if we've got conversations going in chat, and I'm responding to a YouTube, a YouTube chat, the person on Twitch watching is going to have no idea what I'm talking about. So how is that a consistent, good user experience? Whereas if they can see the chat going, they can even respond in chat to the other chatters if we run through, the system that we're using to manage the chat. And I have no idea. I have no idea, Mike, and welcome to the show. I have no idea how they would know. But if they figure you're doing it, they'll axe your account and blah 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 blah. So you know what? To heck with it. And Tony, yeah, I have no idea how to find anything on Twitch. I but I'm an old fart, and I'm used to YouTube. I could also be just as used to not Vivo. What's it called? There's a couple other streaming services that I have stuff on. Hey, Wabbit, welcome. Good to see you. So I'm gonna do. I know that I'm gonna stick on YouTube, despite the fact that, as I said, they're doing some things that I'm not real thrilled about. But by and large, that's where the biggest audiences are. It's you know, as Tony said, it's hard to find things on there unless you know specifically what you're looking for. So it's fresher fart. Yeah, it's like, yeah. So I'm sticking here on YouTube. If I can, if it's easy for now, if it's easy to add something else, then maybe I will. But to me, ultimately, it's a completely different platform, and it's something that is dedicated to this kind of thing. We can, and it can do, uh, it can come along with an actual app that you can watch on your TV and participate. Um, and so it's but that's an investment to put that together. But you have no restrictions, silly restrictions, and these silly things that well, some of the silly things that YouTube is doing. One of the one of the one of the drivers of some of these things that are being done are, when you operate on the internet, you're on a world platform, and different countries and different regions have certain regulations about what happens on the internet. And if you want your content to be viewable there, you have to play by their rules as well as your own country's rules. And that's kind of what's going on with all of the streaming platforms at this point. They're all getting hit with these regulations. Oftentimes, it's the EU that is the driver. In some other instances, it's the U.S., and then of course, Asia has their whole sets of rules, all of which have to be you have to try and adhere to. And so, the big push now is to make sure that young people aren't seeing content they're not supposed to see. That I think is causing some problems on yeah, UK this time with online safety. But see, but the deal, Rethik, is they're not the only ones who have that condition. Um, so that's also, although not implemented fully yet, that's coming into play here in the United States as well. So this is it's a real mess, honestly. And the other other things that come into play are accessibility is being pushed really hard, now. Um, so it's a well, and so Tony, that's what I was alluding to. Um, you know, there are ways to do that, and we can still even host it on. It still gets hosted on a platform that is more robust than YouTube will ever be, and it's but there's a large cost involved, and you know, this the there's an administration would be tricky, um, but it's a it's not an undoable thing. Um, but like I said, there's cost. Startup cost. Yeah, exactly. Um, in the startup cost would be probably in the for the infrastructure would be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, and then there are ongoing costs as well. Um, so there's you um, the platforms are very easy to make sense. They there's nice website stuff involved, and you can link it easily and embed it easily, and all the stuff. It's beautiful, um, and but it's like I said, it's expensive, and so there still has to be um, there still has to be some way to, I'm not going to say censor, but moderate. Hey George, good to see you. Because there are real concerns about certain things anyway. um, the thing about it, Ghost, is that it's not the censorship doesn't have to do with it's fairly specific. And it's the best way to describe it is, or the easy way to describe the censorship that's rolling out right now, that the UK rolled out and the US is rolling out, is an age-based thing. Um, they basically don't want the basic gist as it came out. Of course, it's ballooned into a whole bunch of our garbage on top of it, but they don't want kids seeing the pink bits. Is really what it gets down to. And so in order to and other otherwise sensitive content, and so the idea is they want to make sure that the viewers or participants are over 18, and so yeah, because kids are never lied about their age, and so here's where it gets here's where it gets kind of hinky. YouTube is implemented, or has implemented an AI age verifier, and so if it by whatever means thinks somebody is underage, they're not going to be allowed to see certain content. And then they would have to, if it misses and misjudges the age, then you have to go through some series of proof. Now, YouTube customer service being what it is or isn't, I can just see the nightmare that it's going to be to contest the AI's ruling. So one of the things, and so it's going to be a nightmare for a while, and that's the way it's going to be. Moving to your own secure platform, it's easier. It would be smaller. It would also be easier to manage age verification, much easier. The Mixmaster, the thing about the equipment, the cost of good equipment is coming down. It's another one of those democratization of things is at play. I have two PTZ cameras. I have. It needs to be a challenge. Well, yeah, sure. So I have two pan-tilt zoom cameras, and they're not. I'm not going to say they're the greatest in the world, but they do meet broadcast specs for broadcast television if you want to use them. These cameras, to buy these cameras, even 3 years ago, would have been thousands of dollars. And this particular ones that I have here, you can catch on B&H for under $500, pretty much all year round. They take them off sale for a couple months a year. Other than that, it's this particular model is $499 or $449, depending on the time. The switcher that I use, it's under $1,000, and it does all this, in the switcher. Because I don't use OBS, but in the switcher I can do these things, So I've got a background layer, I've got text overlay, I've got two cameras going at once, and it could be more, when I'm doing the times when I have the editor up for the Korg synths up on the other laptop, I'll go ahead and go to the shot. Right now it's showing something else, but if I've got that going on and I want to show the PC, so I want to show both PCs and myself, I've got this stack. So so these kind of things are now cheap to do, and not too many years ago, you would have needed tens of thousands of dollars of equipment to make all that work. So budget cam for recording music. So what's the more specific? Are you recording are you recording like a concert somewhere, or are you recording your music in your studio? Because one thing that some folks are doing, and it looks really good. So you'd be at home. So there are some folks that are doing their YouTube channels, and they look really good with their iPhone. The cameras in the iPhones and also the Google Pixels are outstanding. Also, some of the I personally don't like the Samsungs, but some people get good results with Samsung. What's it? OnePlus, a couple of their models, I think it's OnePlus, are excellent. In markets where you can buy them, there's a Chinese brand, of Highway or Huawei or whatever it's called. The cameras in those are excellent. The trick with any of them is getting the video out and getting it synchronized. And so I use iPhones because when I do that, I use iPhones. I use older iPhones because it's really easy. There's an adapter, plugs into the Lightning port on an older iPhone and gives you HDMI out and power in. And so that works really well. Getting it to work on Android is a little more is a little trickier. As far as Android cameras or Android phones with cameras that look good, the Pixels are just outstanding. The image quality on the Pixel cameras is better than the iPhones. It is. Man with a beard, welcome. Good to see you. So it's but iPhone. I mean, iPhones are ubiquitous. They're expensive. All the really good ones are expensive. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Is in a phone situation, if you're going to use your phone, like I've got a 16 Pro, iPhone 16 Pro, but for a while, if you look back in some of the older streams, I was using, let's see, it's not, oh, stand by. I didn't have pan tilt control of it, but if you can find this camera, this is a, let's see, this is a Sony RX100 Mark III. Its autofocus is outstanding. Its low light performance is outstanding. And since it's no longer made, you should be able to get them relatively inexpensively. It has HDMI out. So if you want to plug it into a capture card, or it plugs right in and gives you superb video. The downfall of this camera is that it does not have an external microphone input. But if you're using it as a camera with like like I used the Blackmagic ATEM switchers, it works beautifully with those. And like I said, these are no longer made, so they're not going to be ridiculously expensive like they were when I bought mine. It's not accessible at the moment, but my big, semi-pro mirrorless camera is also Sony. It's the Alpha 6100. It has separate microphone input, interchangeable lenses, exceptional image quality. You don't have to buy the latest. That's the point there. You don't have to buy the latest version of a camera in order to get excellent quality. And when you go with something like this, or you know the interchangeable lens versions. You've got a camera that you can use in the studio. You can take it and take pictures on a trip. You know, it's a great. It becomes very very versatile. That said, I haven't carried a camera. You know, I used to be a semi-professional photographer. I shot weddings and art photography, all this kind of stuff. I don't carry my camera very much anymore. We went on our trip to Iceland. This is one of those, you know, once or twice in a lifetime trips. I didn't take a camera. I took the iPhone, and the pictures were great. But you know, so don't discount the iPhone. The drawback to cameras like that is that the shooting angle, the angle is fixed. So what you see when you set it up is what you get. Like right now, looking at camera one, you think this is a one shot, but you know, camera one here, my camera one, I've got the shot that we're looking at. I can have it tighten up. I'm having some focus issues with this particular camera, but and that's probably the way I have it set up. So I'm not calling it a problem per se. There we go. So I can bring it in, and it's nice and sharp. But so again, this is a PTZ, because there's certain things I want to be able to do. Like I want to be able to, you know, swing it over here when I'm doing something over here, you know. And so, you know, these cameras do look good, George, especially for $500. I mean, I'm blown away by how good these cameras look. And honestly, they look every bit as good as the $3,000 overhead camera that I had before. You know, I've got one that I had hanging in the ceiling that actually belongs. I've mentioned before, it belongs to a client. It's one of their spares that I test with. This camera is made by BZB Gear. Tell you what, let me do this. I'm going to look at different screen here for the moment while I go off and find. Actually, I can. Yeah, let me go here. Boom. And let's see. Stand by. So the transitions are done they're not done in camera. Transitions would be done in whatever your switcher. So the one that I have, George, is the 10. There's a whole bunch of different models. Like if you look at the one I have is the 10x lens. They've got a 20x and a 30x. They're significantly more expensive. They also have them, and this can be a this can if you want to use these with OBS, there's 3 different ways to do it with this particular camera. You can bring HDMI into, you know, some sort of HDMI to USB adapter. You can bring them in USB. They've got USB video out as well. They've also got the next line up from these. They've got the 1020 and 30x with and without NDI. And so you can buy the NDI version. It costs more because that's a license that has to be paid. And you can use NDI to bring the video into OBS or any number of professional video switchers, like a VizRT TriCaster or a JVC connected cam or any number of other pro level devices that most people don't need. You know, honestly, most of us doing what we're doing, this 10x is fine. Like I said, the problem that I have with them, the studio here is, my studio is 10 feet by 11 feet. And I have a ceiling height that's 8 feet. So the camera that's up, I can't get far enough away to get a wide shot that I would like. So and these do not have a thread on them for a wide angle adapter. So, you know, that's the drawback of the $500 camera versus the $2,500 camera. Because I can put a wide lens on that camera if I need to. So anyway, that's that business. There is nothing above my studio. So I live in a rancher, and so there's the roof above my studio. Actually, and I live in a ranch house, so single floor. My studio is on the ground floor. I'm not in the basement. The basement, the ceiling height in the basement is 6 feet 9 inches. So I definitely couldn't do it down there. And I'm not busting the ceiling out to raise the roof here. For the other thing is, so the original air conditioning from 1965 is still living in the ceiling directly above my head. When the previous owners upgraded, they abandoned it in place and put the new one next to it. So we couldn't even get it out without busting out the end of the roof and pulling it out the end. So there's unnecessary junk. At some point, maybe I will pay to have it removed, but I seriously doubt it. It's just too much of a hassle. So there's 2 air conditioning units in the roof in my house. I kind of wish that the air handler had been put in the basement, but if we'd done that with the low ceilings in the basement, the ductwork would be running around at about 5.5 feet off the floor. So, not a good situation. I wish the house had taller ceilings throughout, but 1965 they weren't making them that way. Not often anyway. So anyway, kind of got off track, or went down a track. We've gone that track before. Well, and so in parts of the United States, lots of the United States, if you don't have air conditioners, you're having a really bad time of life. I live in Maryland, and so near Washington, D.C., and the temperatures here, we can get into we don't often yet get into it regularly, but we've been in the low hundreds, as high as 110 that I remember, and that's before the humidex or feels like temperature, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, so in Maryland, not only is it hot, it's humid. We were down at the ocean over the weekend visiting my mother, and Saturday and Sunday, as much as the air conditioner in the hotel was cranking, the humidity in the hotel room was 100%. The temperature was 72, but 100% humidity. My mother's air conditioning had failed about a month ago, and she's she got it. It's been fixed, but she has she's living in a too large 2-story house. When the air conditioners weren't working, she has 2 air conditioners in that house, and the temperature inside upstairs was 95 degrees. It was 80 something downstairs, so it was nasty. Hey Thomas, good to see you. Welcome. I haven't seen you in a while. So you do, although I will say you do tend to show up about the time I'm ready to go to bed. Yeah, so that's the other thing. I mean, so the other thing is, so we got to keep the air conditioner running, screaming at night, or screaming all day to keep the humidity down. Otherwise we get mold. So it's a thing. Yeah, DC. DC gets icky and sticky, and it gets worse. We're not having the so in order to make it work, George, you need a whole house dehumidifier, and so that ends up adding huge amounts to the cost of the system. And then in the wintertime, we need a humidifier. It's just it's. I want to move someplace with a more temperate climate. That's what I want to do. Give me mid-70s all year round, and I'll be perfectly happy. Maryland weather sucks. Exactly right, Kurt. But you know what? So, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're in the same kind of boat, Tony. And I've spent some summer times there. And the thing with Maryland, you say you got to. So I do have a dehumidifier in the basement, David, because it's particularly moist down there. And the one that I have down there has automatic pump out, so it pumps itself. It pumps itself out into the sump, and the sump pump, pumps the water outside. So I don't have to worry about emptying it downstairs. Upstairs, I keep the temperature sensitive with a heat pump, and a good running air conditioner. You can just if you keep the temperature under 73 degrees or so, if you're under 73 degrees or so, the air conditioner will not only keep the temperature cool, it will also work as or act as a dehumidifier by its nature. The one in the hotel room that we rented over weekend, it's one of those mini splits, and it was having a hard time keeping up, and it wasn't particularly warm down there. Well, the Renaissance Fair people are crazy in more ways than that, Tony. they're just not right. Or as some people would say, they're touched. And I used to be one of those people. Years ago I was. 55 below all day around. That might be a little chilly for me, but I'm guessing you're going to Kurt, probably to Alaska or the upper parts of Canada. Maybe the upper maritime provinces. Oh my. 72 is a nice temperature. 72, 73. Outside as high as 76 or so is nice. But yeah, I agree too. I'd rather be cold, colder than hot. Saskatchewan would be great. The maritime provinces are nice. I can think of lots of nice places where I wouldn't mind being. And then there's times too that I think, well, if I could, mid 80s aren't bad either if there's a breeze. So that's a possibility. Yes, and almost anywhere in Colorado you are is nice. I've spent some time in Denver, and I've spent some time up in the mountains as well. And it's just nice. The parts of California are very nice all the time. The upper the Northwest, the U.S. Northwest is nice. I've got a friend who is absolutely loving life in Scotland right now. He lived here pretty much all his life, and I guess about a year and a half ago now he escaped, decided he was done, and he went. His first stop out of the country was uh, spring, summer, and fall in Iceland, and then from there he went to Scotland, and he has not looked back. And I don't think he's ever coming back. I think he's gone. Um, Iceland is an interesting place. We were there in January, and during the week we were there the week around January 20th, and we didn't have more than a few minutes below 42 degrees. Yes, Brad is who I'm talking about, Kurt. Um, the We didn't have a temp in January. It was yeah. I went at a brutal time. It was brutal here. You know, the temperatures here when we left. I was watching the news and talking to people back. And what was it, 10 degrees here or lower? You know, and we're at 42 degrees, but it sits at the top of the Gulf Stream. So warm water comes up the coast and runs right by the south side of Iceland. So if you're in the south of Iceland in the wintertime, it's really, not horrible, horrible, horrible. I'm very envious of Brad too, and Brad's travels too in a lot of ways. It came at a cost, at a personal cost, but I think he's, um, it's yeah, it came at a personal cost. I've known Brad for, geez, since about 1980, 79 or 80, somewhere in there. Um, yeah, I mean, January sucked. And, when we were in Iceland, we had snow. It was chilly, it was cold. But, it was, I was, if it weren't so darned expensive to live there, I'd move there. No question. Um, I don't. Again, I don't mind cold. And Donna, who does not like it being cold, actually enjoyed. Enjoyed the temperature and everything. I don't know how long. I don't know about living, but. So the interesting thing about yeah, take your fish oil. I don't know about. So my family is, or my paternal family is from Norway, and we the trip that we made to Iceland, we were up until about, well, we made all the plans for the trip less than a month before the trip, and or maybe just a little bit more, but um, we waffled a lot between whether or not we were going to bounce off Iceland and go to Norway on that trip, or just stay in Iceland. And we finally decided let's just stay in Iceland. But I am Norwegian. My wife has a small amount of Norwegian as well. I would love to go, at least go there. Um, I don't know about. I don't know if I want to live there or not. But I certainly want to go. Um, I wouldn't mind packing up and going somewhere for good. Um, you know, so many places are lovely. You know, and there are parts of the United States that are are lovely. That was the thing about that was the thing about Iceland, was that yeah, we there was a couple sitting across from me on the plane flying over, and he said that one thing that um, the Icelanders and are very good at, and I guess most of Scandinavia, they're very good at separating Americans from their money. And I will say it's true. It was if you're not careful, you can burn through a lot of money real quick. Um, let's see, Australia. Well, so I've known folks who live in Australia for a number of years, and their comment is that it's always expensive in Australia. It's just, and I understand why. I mean, um, there are limited resources in Australia, so most everything has to come in, um, and so so much stuff is imported that it can't help but be expensive, and that's just the way it is. I would not want to live on a U.S. waterway, Paul. Um, I would consider a narrowboat in the UK. Um, I would, I would, I would consider that. Um, it's a fairly common thing to do, um, and so there's a whole, you know, there's a whole culture around it, and I would but Paul and I have talked about boats a lot, and my I my saying about boats is that they're a hole in the water into which you throw money. But that said, that the same thing is true about a house. A house is a hole in the ground into which you throw money. An RV, it's a hole in the road into which you throw money. It's everything costs. And there's very few inexpensive ways to. It's getting harder and harder to save money. Yeah, you got to pay to play. You got to pay to live anymore, and so it's not just play. It's just all of life is becoming more and more expensive all the time. Um, you know, uh, we look at Donna and I occasionally look at other places here in the states, and even the less or least expensive places to live in the United States, we could not get a place either buy or rent for less than what we're paying as a mortgage. Even I don't even we couldn't even we nothing. We couldn't even get close. So um, yeah, it's like everything is it's so we have found some places. There are some places you can live that are affordable. They're not here. It would require a wholesale, pick up and move and leave the country, basically. Um, and I can't do that just yet. As I have responsibilities. I have to be an adult for a while longer, and then I can think about it, but not anytime soon. So anyway, I know Jeff is speaking of folks with holes in the ground into which they throw money. Jeff is not going to be streaming tonight. I don't believe. I'm pretty sure. I'm actually 99.9% certain that Jeff is not streaming this evening. He just bought a new house and is in the midst of moving, and I'm pretty sure the studio is not set up yet there. So that's um, you say the Mid Atlantic is fantastic. There's lots of ways that the Mid Atlantic is fantastic, Paul. Um, um, and the variety of experiences here in the Middle Atlantic is hard to beat. I'm not going to say it can't be beat, but it's hard to beat. Um, you know, um, so you don't know how many times, Kurt, that the idea of the music commune has been has been discussed, or not necessarily music, specifically music, but um, a commune for like-minded individuals. Let's put it that way. And I won't say commune either, but something like that has been discussed around here. I don't know how many times, and I don't see it happening anytime soon, unfortunately, but at least not here. But that has definitely been a discussion. Yeah, I mean they're out there. So jam cruises are very. There's I know people that participate in some of those. Um, there's a lot of them that happen. There's I know a bunch of the folks on the blues cruise, um, and some of them I've known very well. So, and you guys are off down a path that I'm not sure what's going on with, but so the you're talking, Paul, about Airbnb across the globe. I think part of that is how Brad started. He's doing things now though where he is bartering work for housing, and I think that's part of what he's doing. He helps out and in turn gets a place to sleep. Um, so let's see, 40. Not sure what that's all about. Anyway, so it is though. Even though Jeff's not streaming, I am going to go ahead and wind down. Been an interesting conversations tonight, and I appreciate everybody coming as always. But like I said, each of my new Yulis gets a vid. Yeah. So that was one thing I did. I'm still looking for what's going to be uh, some companion stuff to go with the Pro 800. Um, there's a number of things that are on the list, and the list hasn't gotten any smaller. It's probably actually gotten bigger. But I'm not in a hurry. I think I've got a plan for the November event, the November show, and so I'm thinking about how that's going to work. But I am going to KnobCon. There are things I'm going to look at while I'm there, and I've elected this year to drive out as opposed to fly. It's several $100s less expensive at the expense of a lot more time, but um, ah Pro 800 is, I'll tell you what, one of my considerations is actually just rack up a second Pro 800. I um, It is so much more than the synth that I remember the Prophet 600 being. So I love the thing. So they are out there at that kind of price. Mine is not going to be for sale as it was potentially going to be, but I will be selling some other stuff. I just have to figure out what venue I want to sell them in. I hate dealing with eBay, and I'm not. I twitch a little bit with Reverb, but we'll see. I the I would struggle with that choice too, Paul. I'm the well, I do know that I don't know that I would buy a K2. Um, I this For one thing, I've got it in software. Um, So the Kronos, so as far as Kronos 2 is 3 is concerned, here's the deal. Find a good used Kronos 2. Pull the SSD out and clone it into with a better, faster SSD, maybe bigger. Pop that puppy in there, upload to the newest version of firmware or software, and basically you will have a Kronos 3. They are almost identical otherwise. You won't have the new version of the touchscreen, but everything else will be exactly there. And the Kronos is an amazing instrument. I gigged one for a number of years, and I had a Kronos too, and the pain point was the boot time. It takes 3.5 minutes, about 3.5 minutes to boot up a stock Kronos 2. And they talk about, one of the things they talk about is a big selling point for the Kronos 3 is the 60% faster boot time. And if you just replace the SSD with a good SSD, modern SSD, you get the 60% better boot time. It's just, and like I said, the other difference is the touch screen on the Kronos 2 is difficult to work with in certain lighting conditions. And if you look on my website, if you visit GaryNum.net and look at the website, there's a post about how I dealt with that. It was not pretty, but basically I built a little tent to go over the touchscreen so I could see it when I'm playing outside. On bright days, on daytime gigs outside. And there is I saw on Reverb, I think it was Reverb the other day, somebody is 3D printing a little thing that just pops in there. So you can work around that issue. Otherwise, it's from what I can tell. And I will say, before I stick a flag in the ground that I want to die on that, I'm going to check out the Kronos 3 on my way back from KnobCon. One of the other reasons that I'm driving out is that I'm going to stop by Sweetwater on the way home. So I will go. And don't get me started on that, Tony. It's not behind. It's not behind. It's certainly not behind montage. The only Roland is kind of forging ahead with Phantom, pulling ahead of both Yamaha and Korg to some extent. But the montage, even the new M whatever it is, the only thing the montage M has over the previous montage is the AN1X engine, virtual analog engine. There's been a virtual analog engine in a Kronos since it came out. So it's the montage is not ahead of the Kronos by any stretch of the imagination. If you really get into it, Tony, a montage is an SY99 or an SY77, and then the montage M stacks an AN1X on top of it. It's really what it gets down to. The user interface is drastically improved over the old models. The user interface on the montage is wonderful, but the instrument itself is basically the same. It's got the same stuff laying around. It's AWM2 and it's AFM. With a couple extra, it's got a couple extra operators on the FM side, but great product. I think if I were buying as far as the Roland goes, it's an amazing instrument. It's more than a workstation, but it comes at some cost. Yeah, SY77 is an amazing, is a fantastic instrument. You know, is the audio quality slightly better from the montage? Probably. I don't know that the build quality is any better than the SY77. And again, these, some of this is fact, some of this is opinion. So the Kurzweils are wonderful. They're beautiful instruments. I don't think they're as feature rich. I would think they don't have as much gimmickry, so to speak, as some of the newer stuff, or as the Yamahas and the Rolands and the Korgs. But man, do they sound good, and they're beautifully designed, and they're beautiful instruments to use. They're so well thought out. You know, and Kurzweils, yes, they will live forever. So, didn't someone we know just sold an Iridium, or is selling an Iridium? I think. I don't know. I can't keep track of everyone else's gear. I have a hard enough time keeping track of my own. Let's see. Trying to keep up with chat. Iridium is sweet. There are quirks. Everything has got quirks, though. So I guess you take your lumps, so to speak. I see what it is. I was jonesing for an Iridium for a while, but I think I'm not gonna make that jump. It's I honestly don't need it. There's nothing that well, and that's where I was going, Tony. I've got pigments, and I've got whatever else I've got pigments and Vital and Hive too. I don't have Serum 2, and I'm probably not going to. But those, there's not a whole lot that you can do on an Iridium that you can't put together in one of those or the other. And actually, there's probably stuff you can do in the software that you can't do on Iridium hardware. So, I can't see the cash outlay for it, to be honest with you. That was another. So Karma is on the Kronos is definitely. I didn't use it as much as I thought I would, honestly. But I remember when the Karma keyboard came out, and Paul's got one of these. It's a wonderful instrument, so much fun to play, and I. So that was one of the deciding factors when I bought my Kronos, was that it's got Karma. And so, but I didn't end up using it as much as I thought I would. I don't know why. I just didn't. I guess what ended up happening was I didn't use the keyboard. Well, and that was the thing. On the Kronos, you don't have an arpeggiator. You've got Karma, and so it is hard to do anything simple on just a simple arpeggio. And that was kind of where it got in my way. But the other thing was I ended up not using the Kronos like a workstation. It was my, it ended up being it was my gigging keyboard. That's really what I bought it for, to be my gigging keyboard. But I thought I might be able to incorporate the Karma stuff into some of the stuff that I was doing live, and it just didn't work out for that. But that said, I had no regrets about buying the Kronos. Um, there was nothing else out there that um, uh, nothing else out there that did what I needed to do when I needed to do it. At the time that I bought my Kronos 2, um, the montage and the phantoms were not finished. And you know, so there were things that I absolutely needed in a keyboard that I couldn't do on those instruments. Um, I I would have been happy either way with an M3 or a Kronos. I think they were both just fine. Um, the but you know, yeah, both great. And that's the yeah. I don't care about the trigger pads personally, but the tilted panel would have been nice. It would have alleviated the problem with being able to see the touch screen on you know, see things well on a really brightly lit stage, or playing outside, you know. And that was, yeah, so that was the M3 one hands down. Otherwise I didn't mind it so much, because it's like it's, you know, playing anything else, it's I was used to that. But yeah, that tilted panel, and it's like, and I mentioned this last week on the show. You know, I wish that the Polybrute had the tilting panel from the Matrix Brute. Um, you know, it's just that helps so much when you're to have that. But I would say on the flip side, you know, for some things, I would prefer a flat panel, just as gigging. Um, oh, you had the white Blofeld as well. That probably looked really cool. Um, come that later. So need better. Yeah. So anyway, it's 10 o'clock here, or getting close to it. I am gonna call it a night, and hopefully I will see you all again next week. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I was going to talk about tonight. I've gotten lazy. I haven't been writing things down, and so I haven't. I keep missing stuff that I want to talk about, but it's only rock and roll. So anyway, again, thanks everyone for coming. I'm gonna play some music a little bit. Actually, where's the camera pointed? Before I do that, let's put that where I want it, and I'll play for a few minutes, and then thank you for coming, Golly. Appreciate it, and hope to have you come back regularly. I'm here every Monday night at this time. Most every Monday night anyway, starting up about 8 o'clock Eastern time. Should be here next week. I will not be here the Monday after KnobCon because I'll be driving. Have just driven home or be driving home. I'm not sure if I'll be home in time yet. So thank you for the subscription, Ghost. Appreciate it. And thanks, Man with Beard. Thanks, Miss Master, George, Thomas, Kurt, Tony, Paul, whoever else was here. Let's see. Let me get my participant view. Thomas. Just not everyone is still. I think there were some other folks here earlier. Again, thanks everyone. Appreciate you coming. I always have a great time on Monday nights. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you all again real soon. If I can push all the right buttons. So, all right, thanks. Yes, let's arrange meetups at KnobCon for anyone who's going. We can talk about that. Talk about that as it gets closer, for sure. Again, thanks a lot, guys. See you all later.